Okay, welcome to the retouch tutorial series. Today I'm going to be working on highlights on objects. In this particular case, obviously it's a car. I've had a lot of requests for this, so let's get started. So here's my image. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new layer, and I'm going to call that highlights. And I like to be very descriptive with my names because I never know where these files are going to go. Typically with an agency or something, so when everything's named properly, it basically helps everybody out. So the first thing I'm going to do is have a look at the car, and you can see there are some highlights there now, but they aren't great. So what I'm going to do is go in and enhance those. And typically in an object there will be some form of a highlight, or I mean the thing is going to be pitch black. So if it's really bad and you don't see any highlights, you're either going to have to use your imagination or possibly reshoot or ask for another image. So now that I have my highlight layer created, I'm going to go in with a pen tool, and I'm just going to draw around those existing highlights that I see in the object, and I'll be fairly accurate about it. Now here's the area toward the back. I'm not that happy with that. That's a funny shape that has been picked up, I guess, by a prop or something in the background. So I'm going to pretend that isn't there for right now. And I'm just going to continue around and draw my highlight. Now you'll notice I go quite wide on this because I want my highlight to be very hard from the source, which is sort of coming, the light source is coming from the top. So I want it to be hard along the top, but I do want the fall off to be soft below the top hard line. So I'm going to go wide so that when I paint my highlight in, it isn't knocked off by the selection. So there's my shape that I've created in the path with my paths, and now I'll make a selection of that. And the selection is typically based on what you see in the rest of the image. If the image is very soft, then obviously my selection is going to be very soft. And if it's a very sharp looking image, obviously your highlights are going to be sharper. Or if it's a very shiny object, it's going to be sharper. So for this case, I'll try a 1, and we'll see how that goes. So there we have a selection. I'm going to hide that selection, and now I'm going to select a brush. And I'm going to make sure, I always paint with a white, depending on what it is. Typically it will be white all the time. So I'm going to make sure that I do have white, which I do. And then I'll select my opacity. And typically I'll start with a 20 or 30, just so I can build it up. And we'll see how that goes. So now I'm going to brush along my selection, and you can see the effect that's happening there now. And toward the back, actually, the highlight should be on the reverse of this. So what I'm going to do is invert my selection, hide it, and I'll just continue to paint along the top in this particular area. Now obviously it's gone too wide. What I'll do is I'll delete my selection. I'll go in with an erase tool, and I'll just erase where I don't want it. And what I'm going to do later, I'll fix up that retouching underneath this highlight, the paint under there, but this will just give you an idea of the highlight. And so what I'll do is I'll continue to go around. I'll use my pen tool. I'll trace areas where I see a highlight. And once I do that, I'll make my selection and paint that area in. So there's another selection. I'm going to hide that, brush tool, and I'm just going to go in and paint again with that. And usually it takes a couple of tries with the brush to get the right opacity. So I'm going to continue to go around this car, drawing in selections with my pen tool around the highlight shapes. Now sometimes you'll find that the highlight that is there may not be that great, or it's a funny shape because maybe there was a prop or something that was picked up and it made it look funny. So don't be afraid to obviously go in and change that if it doesn't look right. So there we are. I'm just brushing that one in. Now I'll go around to, I'll delete that selection, go around to the front of the car. And again, I can see the highlight now is more on the outside of this particular portion of the car. So again, I'm just going to go with my pen tool. I'm going to go wide on that. And there we are. Well, I don't like the shape of that actually. Let me just fix that. Get that looking right. Okay, so there's my shape. Make a selection. Hide it, and then I'll paint that in. A bit of a funny shape there, but that's the basic idea. What you would do is go through and make different shapes with your pen tool. I mean, that's the way I do it anyway. Again, we'll go wide on that. Make a selection and brush in a highlight. Now you can see I can do this fairly quickly. I mean, the masks have to be accurate, or the selections have to be accurate, but you can always go back in with the erase tool and erase portions of the highlight, because it is soft anyway, and if you're not happy with something. So basically that's the way I do highlights. It goes by fairly quickly, but once you get the hang of it, you can zip through an image fairly quickly. And of course, your highlights being on the layer, you can adjust the opacity. You can go back in after and erase different areas. For instance, the door handles here, they shouldn't really have a highlight running on them. Makes them look very faded. And any dark areas as well, where the door jambs are here, the joins, I'm going to eliminate the highlight there. We don't want a highlight running over a dark area. That's very obviously retouched if that's the case. And there we have it. So hopefully that gives you a basic idea of how to put a highlight on an object. You can see this and many more examples on my website at retouch.ca, and if you have any questions, be sure and give me a shout. Thanks very much.